If you've ever said you want to move abroad someday, but you haven't yet, this video is for you. I've been helping people move overseas for the last 20 years, and there are 10 major things that always hold people back. And chances are one or more of these things are holding you back too. So let's start with the number one thing. And this is the fear of making a mistake. What if you move abroad and you hate it? Or what if you choose the wrong country? In my relocation program, Ready to Relocate, we focus first and foremost on helping people choose a destination, because this is something that could hold you back for years or even forever as you explore and research online and watch hundreds of YouTube videos about the very best place to live in the world. But the truth is there might be more than one best place for you. So I've seen people just spend so much time to the point of getting paralysis analysis and then never moving abroad because they're afraid that they're choosing the wrong location, or they'll come to me with a list of 10 or 20 places that they can't decide between. And this is from getting a lot of different perspectives from Reddit and Facebook groups and forums and YouTube videos. And it's just confusing. You know, the first time I moved abroad, we really didn't have much internet access. And I didn't even have internet in my office until we had satellite internet in Costa Rica. So I didn't really know anything about moving abroad. I didn't know any other people who had lived abroad. And it was just a big question mark for me. And actually, the first time that I did move abroad to Costa Rica, I didn't want to go. I actually cried on the airplane as we were landing because I was so scared. And I thought that this was not the right country for me. I wanted to go to Italy, but I got a scholarship and they sent me to Costa Rica. And so basically what happens here is that even if you make a wrong decision, that country might be the best first country for you. So the good news is that you can't really mess up here, even if you choose a place that after a few years, you decide it's not for you. You still get that very valuable experience of having lived there, and you can take that with you to the next place that you go, or even if you decide to move home. The next fear is running out of money. What if you miscalculate how much money you need and you run out? Or what if you end up broke and homeless in a foreign country? That is the worst case scenario, right? Well, I also have good news for you if this is something that's been holding you back, because chances are the place that you end up moving will actually cost you less than where you're living right now, especially if you're living in the United States. The cost of living in the US has gotten so astronomically high in recent years that the cost of living in this one-bedroom apartment here in Miami is more than the cost of living in pretty much any other country in the world. I mean, my grocery bill in Miami is more than the average salary in Portugal and more than the total cost of living per month in Mexico. So if you're living in the US or Canada even, and you're thinking of moving abroad, more often than not, you're going to save a lot of money. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to worry about money, because you do need to be prepared before you leave the country. And this comes in two ways. First of all, the first thing that all over 1,000 of my relocation clients have had in common is that they have a consistent and reliable income stream. This could come from a pension, this can come from savings, investments, remote work income, or if you're moving abroad to be a freelancer, self-employed, or to get a work permit. So before you move abroad, you have to have a source of income. I know you've probably heard stories online of people moving without any money and figuring it out when you get there, but I strongly recommend knowing how much income you'll be receiving per month once you arrive so that you just have peace of mind. The second thing you have to do is budget. And budgeting for an international move can be pretty complicated. So a few years ago, I created a moving abroad budget that you can download for free in this video's description. And I'll leave all the resources in this video there for you. In this case, you want to make sure you think about your expenses before you move, during your move, and also after your move. This can be tricky, but it's not rocket science. And you also want to leave in a little buffer there in case you underestimate those expenses. And I'll also link to a video that I did about budgeting for your move abroad in this video description. The third fear is not getting the health care that you need. And this is especially important if you have a pre-existing condition or if you're in later stages of life and you really depend on quality care. I also have good news for you in this instance that chances are the care that you need is available in foreign countries and usually at a lower price and the same quality or even better than you're used to, especially again, if you're coming from the United States. I mean, I was just in Colombia and I got sick. And even though I had travel medical insurance, I just went to the pharmacy and got a Z-Pack for less than $5. So yeah, you could buy antibiotics over the counter and was able to get them really affordably. Another benefit if you move to a foreign country and apply for a residence permit is that you can actually access the public healthcare system after you've lived there for a certain period of time, usually just a few months or so. And there you go. You can get free or very discounted healthcare, or you can opt to pay for private insurance, which is often much more affordable than it would be in the United States. And I'm not talking about the very pricey international expat insurance plans that you typically find if you're searching for insurance online on Google. And there's a lot of other options, but you definitely want to go for a local policy from a local provider and kind of avoid those really expensive international plans. But the fourth thing that might be holding you back from moving abroad is bureaucracy overload and just overwhelm with all of the technical aspects and the logistics of going abroad, especially when it comes to which visa or residence permit to get. And this kind of circles back to the first thing that we talked about with decision fatigue, with choosing a destination, because it's really important to figure out which type of visa or residency permit is right for you before you move. So the good news is that you can figure this out before you leave. It's not like you're going to get to the country and then realize that you can't stay there and get deported. In most cases, you'll need to apply for a permit before you enter. There are exceptions, of course, but in the months leading up to your move, you can apply for the right category and then find out if you got approved, or you can appeal if you didn't get approved. So the most common types of ways that you can live in another country is with a retirement visa, which many countries offer. You also could get a work permit. You can get a remote work permit, and there's also other kind of mixed visas, passive income visas. So it really depends on the country, but comment below if you have any questions. Now, if the visa that you want isn't available in that country, I've done a lot of videos about countries that have been canceling their golden visas, or maybe you have your heart set on retiring in Australia, but Australia doesn't have a retirement visa. So you might need to check out other options, like maybe New Zealand or maybe Ireland or somewhere else. And then once you actually get to the country, and this could be something that holds you back in advance, is really fear of the unknown. What if you go through all of these steps, spend all of this money, apply for visas, hire a lawyer or a relocation consultant, and then you get there and you don't like it? Well, an exploratory trip can actually help you get an idea and a feel for a country before you go, but you'll really figure this out once you actually live there. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's really no such thing as a mistake or a wrong answer. There's only learning experiences. And yes, those learning experiences could cost you money, but the point of moving abroad is to enjoy your life. It's not to go to a country that you've decided that you hate living in. And for anyone who's lived abroad for a certain amount of time, you might have met some people, other expats perhaps, that they don't seem very happy living there. And maybe it's because they made the wrong decision. Maybe they chose a country that's not the right fit for them. But instead of changing or going home, they just stick it out, and they're angry and they're miserable and they're sitting at the bar every day and the beach, but they're not enjoying it. So, I mean, I'm stereotyping here, but there is a possibility that you go to a country and it's not the right fit for you. But that can take time to figure out because you've got different stages of culture shock. You've got the honeymoon phase, you've got the dip, you've got the adjustment phase. And so you really need to figure out where you are in the phases of culture shock before you decide to throw in the towel. And again, even if you decide after 1 year or 2 years or 3 years that, you know, this wasn't the right place for you, the worst case scenario that can happen is that you come back to your home country and say, well, I had that experience, it was great, or you decide to move to another country. And at that point, you have so much experience living abroad that the switching costs are not so high as they were the first time you moved. Along those same lines is the fear of not fitting in, the fear of being that ugly American, the fear of being a societal outcast because you don't speak the language, you don't know anyone there, you're not familiar with the culture. And this is also a real, genuine concern. And, if you come from Canada and you move to Uzbekistan, there's probably going to be some cultural adjustment there. You're probably going to need to learn the language. And this can go for really any country, but don't be so hard on yourself because this takes time. There's no way to move from one country to another and all of a sudden learn and understand everything that took you your whole life to learn growing up in your home country. You've got to walk before you run. Even as, growing up in your home country, it took you a few years to learn the language. It might happen when you get to the other country as well. The good news is that there are a lot of tools. There's a lot of ways to learn the language. I'll leave my link to Rosetta Stone. This video is not sponsored, but I use them a lot, and I'll leave you a link to more than 60% off lifetime subscription there if you want to try all different languages. And you can start off with that. You can do lessons in person, and then you can also meet other people there. You can make friends with locals. You can make friends with other foreigners. There's lots of meetup groups. There's Facebook groups. There's websites like internations.org where you can find chapters in like 400 or 500 cities worldwide. If you are a Dutch person moving to Japan, you're not going to look like the locals. You're not going to fully ever 100% fit in, but you can still have a very enriching life experience by living there. The hardest part about this fear for me personally is also the kind of related fear of leaving your friends and family behind and then having to make all new friends. There's not a 100% solution for it other than being able to come back to your home country and visit your friends and family, keeping in touch with them over FaceTime, or inviting them to come visit you. I mean, I've had so many amazing adventures with my friends and family in different countries. I've met up with my parents when I was in Amsterdam. My cousin came to visit me in Costa Rica. My brother came to visit me in Nicaragua. My sister lived with me when I lived in Nicaragua. So it's also an opportunity to create new memories with your friends and family that you wouldn't have if you stayed in your home country. And also really important to ask yourself, how often do you really see your friends and family where you're living now? Like maybe you live in Colorado, but your kids or your cousins or whoever lives in New York. Like, do you see them every month? Do you see them once or twice a year? And will it be that much different if you're living in another country? And that can help give you your answer. Number 7 is a big one. And this is a fear around personal safety and security. This can come in the form of financial security, political stability, violence, war, famine. I mean, there's all sorts of things that are happening every minute, every day around the world. Earthquakes, tsunamis, civil wars. I mean, it is quite scary when you look at the headlines and you see everything that's going on. But when I first started traveling back in my teenage years and early 20s, everyone told me that I should be scared of travel and scared of living in Mexico, scared of going to Costa Rica, scared of going to Nicaragua. I mean, everything. But what I found out is that statistically, these other countries were just as safe as the US or much safer. So chances are that when you move to another country, it's actually going to be a lot safer than the place that you're already living, or maybe equally safe. And I have been really transparent here on the channel about how certain things in the US have affected my family, especially gun violence, mass shootings. And this is a fear that I hear a lot from parents who live with this fear every day that something could happen to their child if they go to school or if they go to the movies or if they go to the grocery store. So there's a lot of risks that people take on, especially in countries like the US. I had somebody on the phone yesterday who said that, she was afraid of government force intervening in their communities, and, other people from LGBT community who wanted to leave for safety reasons, or people who've been affected by police violence and discrimination. And oftentimes you can find actually more peace of mind and actual peace when you go to another place. So I do recommend checking out the country that you're interested in moving to, look it up on the Global Peace Index, look up crime statistics, research online, and try to determine if it's actually more dangerous or if that's just a perception. And of course, if you move, you do want to have travel insurance. So I'll link to some companies that I use in the description below. You want to have health insurance. You also want to make sure if you're renting that you have tenants or renters insurance in case of theft, in case of fire, flooding, anything like that. So be prepared. I also talk about this a lot in my new book, Moving Abroad for Dummies, that you can also check out below. This next one is very personal. And this is kind of around the fear of selling everything, like letting go of your entire identity from your home country because you sold your house, you sold your car, you gave away all of your stuff. And it kind of like, it just strips you of everything and you're starting over from zero. As human beings, we like to go around collecting things, decorating our homes, accumulating lots of stuff, especially if we grew up in the consumerist society of the United States. And so going abroad, it's like shedding a skin that can be very freeing in a way, but it can also be scary because you're like, well, what if I, do all of this, sell my car, sell my house, give up my $10,000 mattress? I did have a person with a expensive mattress before. And then you go abroad and then you change your mind. You want to come back, or I don't know. I do hear this a lot, and it actually, organizing your stuff is something that can take months or a year or more before you actually move. So it's a really big deal. But my advice here is, first of all, I've never had anyone tell me that they wish they brought more stuff with them. If anything, people are like, oh wow, I got rid of so much stuff that I never used. And that helps you save money as well on bills and insurance and car payments, things like that. And again, in the worst case scenario, like anything that you need, you can actually find it in the other country. You can repurchase it if you really need it. One time I was packing to go to the airport and I was really stressed about packing, and I was texting with a friend and he said, do you have your passport and do you have your credit card? And I was like, yep. Like, okay, you can figure out anything else from there. Maybe have a little bit of cash on you, but worst case scenario, you go back, you sign a new lease, you buy new furniture, you buy or lease a new car, and hopefully where you're moving, you don't need to have a car anyway. But this is something that holds people back, but I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to. The ninth fear is the fear of not being able to learn the language. And I know I talked about this a little bit in the cultural integration part, but I want to highlight it specifically because it is something that often holds people back, especially if you're moving somewhere where the language is very much different from your own. I do think it's really important to learn the language. Like over the years, I became fluent in Spanish living in Latin America, and that's really, really helped. So I do recommend, starting with something online like Rosetta Stone, taking some immersion classes in person, but you don't have to become fluent. I think just, learning basic words and phrases to get by can really go a long way. I learned very minimal Greek when I traveled to Greece, very minimal Bulgarian when I stayed in Bulgaria for 6 months. I know very little Portuguese, even though I've traveled there 5 times. And you'll definitely fit in better if you do speak the language and if you do make an effort. But I've been to more than 60 countries, and there's nowhere I've been, English speaking or not, that I haven't been able to get by and make it work while I was there. So give yourself that chance. A lot of people say they want to learn the language and then never do and are able to live there anyway. I know when I lived in Costa Rica, I met people who lived there for 10 years and really still didn't speak Spanish. So it is a personal choice, but don't let that keep you from moving in general because, worst case scenario, you'll just be that foreigner that doesn't really speak the language that well, but somehow, with human beings communicating, we communicate through so many different ways, facial expressions, gestures, eyes, so there's a lot of other ways to communicate and somehow it works. This last one is a big one, and it is the fear of losing your citizenship or losing benefits, especially in the case of like US Medicare, Social Security. I see this all the time. And so one distinction I want to make is on losing your citizenship. You actually don't have to give up your citizenship if you move abroad. I haven't given mine up and I've lived abroad for many years. It is a choice and it's not something that you do until you gain citizenship in another place. So in most cases, if you're moving abroad, you will retain your home country's citizenship and then you will gain a resident status in another country. After 5 or 10 years, you may be on a path to citizenship and be able to acquire another citizenship citizenship. And in that case, if the both countries allow dual citizenship, you can keep both. In some cases, you might have to give up one to have the other. But at that time, 5 or 10 years in, you could basically know if that's something that you want to do or not. It's not something that you have to worry about now or be afraid of holding you back. There's also still a lot of golden visas out there, golden passports, especially in places throughout the Caribbean where you've got people buying a passport and then also keeping their US passport, for example. There's people that have multiple 3, 5, 8 passports. So it's something that's optional. I still only have one passport. I'm hoping to acquire another one from Romania, which I'll link to those videos as well below. So you've got the citizenship thing sorted. Then let's look at the benefits. So losing your health care, losing your social security. It is true that you will lose your health care if you move abroad, whether you're moving from Germany or from the United States or somewhere else, because unless you want to keep paying for it and not using it, but typically your local national health care won't work in a foreign country. I always recommend keeping your health care for the first year that you move abroad so you can get really comfortable with the healthcare system abroad before you give up your US healthcare, for example. And if you needed to, you could fly back for a procedure. But as I mentioned earlier in this video, you might find that the healthcare and the healthcare system is better in the country that you move to, and then you don't feel so bad giving up your health insurance from back home. When it comes to Social Security, in most cases, you can continue to collect your Social Security even if you leave the country, and this goes for citizens of most countries. There's a few different options for how to do that. You can continue collecting it in your home country and send it to yourself, or in the case of US Social Security, there's a way to receive it by direct deposit in foreign countries. So hopefully we all get to keep our Social Security. It doesn't get canceled, anything like that. That's a topic for another video. But I'm really curious about which of these fears from this video have been holding you back. Let me know in the comments below. Reach out to me if you would like any help with your relocation. And if you're curious about the countries that Americans are moving to and why, then watch these videos next.